Hey folks, welcome back to my channel. I am the Metal Gardener. So it may look like I'm going to perform some sort of crazy surgery, which I'm not. Close, but not quite. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to do a piercing at home. I am not going to show on myself because, one, it'll be hard to get the right angle to see, and two, currently I have enough piercings in my opinion, or at least for now. Instead, I'll be using this piece of leather. Let me preface this by saying I am no doctor, I am no professional. I just have experience shoving sharp objects through my skin. So, start off, few things you should know if you're not living on your own. You should consult your parents before giving yourself a piercing. I don't want anyone's parents to get mad at them or anything. Second of all, there is the possibility of accidentally hitting a vein or something and getting blood, so it's important to have a first aid kit near you. And you may get lightheaded at some point, so it's good to have water by you. So this is just, I'm sure there's other ways to do it. This is how I do it. You can use a piercing gun, but they're kind of expensive and it's easier, but they're more expensive and a bit less hygienic, so I've heard. So this is how I do them. What you will need is whatever pin or needle you're going to use. I have a leather needle here, but you can use a thick, sharp embroidery needle. Leather needle goes through the skin best. Usually I use a safety pin because it's just easier to hold, and I can close it up and let it sit for a bit after I stick it through my ear. Whatever earring you're going to put in next, I have some little round horseshoe thingies that have screws. These are what I normally use. And then I also have some little studs that I got when I got 2 piercings done professionally. With your earrings, make sure they're either gold or surgical steel. It will make your life a whole lot less painful because the others can get infected and stuff. Once it heals up, you can use other sorts of metals and stuff. So, also need a Sharpie for marking where you want, or any sort of pen. Rubbing alcohol, cotton balls. I only have one here, but you will probably need more. A little Q-tip, also probably need more than one of those. I also have some witch hazel here, which you won't really need until afterwards, and a lighter, or you can use matches for sterilizing the needle. So, now that you know what all... Oh yes, and I may have forgotten to mention, I have some clove oil. You can also use toothache medicine to numb the area. This makes things a whole lot easier, trust me. I've done piercings without numbing it, done piercings with. Definitely a good idea to numb, even if you think you have a good pain tolerance. It makes life easier. So, starting out, what you want to do, I'm not going to go ahead and do this, I'm just kind of roughly show you, is take your, if you're using studs, then take them apart and stuff. If you're using these little bad boys that have screws, if I can find which one unscrews, then unscrew at least one little corner of it. Then if you have a little dish, or you can use like a little cotton pad or something, pour rubbing alcohol in there to sterilize them, let them sit for a bit. You can pull them out and dry them, or let them sit a bit longer. And you will want to make sure they kind of evaporate before you put them in. It's just easier to handle. You will want to rub your whatever sharp object you're going to be shoving through your ear. So in this case, I'm going to be showing with a safety pin. I can show with a leather needle later. Rub this down with the rubbing alcohol. Usually I put some on the cotton pad, and then we'll wipe it down like that. Just imagine I had rubbing alcohol in there. Let it evaporate, and then you will want to take your lighter and just run it over the flame a little bit to make sure you got everything off, all the germies are killed. And if you want, you can rub it down with rubbing alcohol one more time. I don't generally use flame sterilization on the piercings, mostly just use alcohol just because it's hard to hold them without burning yourself. You can use pliers. I don't know, just my personal preference. So now that's sterilized, I will usually put that right over by wherever my piercings are, wherever I have my the earrings or whatever I'm going to be, putting thin, to let it cool. Figure out roughly where you want on this, or on, in this case it'll be your ear, or I guess you could do it on your eyebrow or wherever. But figure out where you want it, and take your numbing stuff. I'm not going to unscrew this, but you dip that in there, or any tooth numbing stuff. If it's a cream, you can put it on the end of this. I just find it easier to apply that way. Put it in, and then put it roughly wherever you want it. Whoops, did not mean to throw that. Both sides of it. So you put the numbing stuff on both sides. The little cotton swab is coming apart. Let it sit for a bit to make sure, and then how I usually test that it's numb enough is kind of gently pinch my ear. I'm going to be saying, just going to be calling this an ear because that's what I've most experience with. But gently pinch that area to make sure it's numb enough. And then you will put alcohol on a cotton swab. You can either use the same one that you wiped down the needle with. I wouldn't, but you can. Put rubbing alcohol on that. Then wipe down the area, both sides. Let that evaporate. Then you will take wherever you want it. Let's say I want, since I have yeah, I'm just going to do one for now. So put a little dot where you want it. This will come off pretty easily with rubbing alcohol, so it's not like your skin's going to be stained, And then you take your pin and make sure you can get good angle on it. Figure out how you want it to go through. 'Cause I've done a number of piercings through at an angle and then had to go back through and pierce them straight through. So what I do is I kind of pinch the skin, pull it tight a little bit, not like too tight, but just kind of tight, and then go ahead and push through. Make sure you don't have like your neck or any other skin behind it. Make sure you're not going to be pushing through your finger, so it'll be through. This is where you may start feeling lightheaded. If you do, just go ahead, and this is why I use safety pins. You can close it up, then you won't risk poking yourself. And then take some water, sit down, something like that. And then what I usually do is I let it sit. You should do this even if you're not feeling lightheaded. Close up the pin, or if you're using a needle, like you can put a little piece of eraser on, or just risk stabbing yourself in the neck, up to you. And then you let it sit there for a little while so that it doesn't immediately just kind of close up. I usually let it sit for, kind of keep it in my ear for anywhere between maybe roughly an hour to maybe 4 at most, just because I always end up doing my piercings in the afternoon, and I don't want to have to go to bed with this in my ear and risk it catching and tearing, So, and what you want to do, also, something I would recommend is get some antibiotic ointment. Put a little bit of that around your piercing and kind of work it in and out with the pin still in it. It'll be easiest to work this way. It'll also make it easier for the your earring to go in. So then if you think you've had it set for long enough, go ahead and pull it out, pull out the pin, and then take whatever piercing. I find it's often easier to get the little straight studs in and then let it keep those in for a couple of days. But if you just want to go for one of the little horseshoe ones, go ahead and try to work it through. Whoops, I guess I can't do it with that, but your ear will be a lot stretchier than this piece of dry leather. But go ahead and put it in. And oh yeah, if you have it sitting, if you have your stud sitting for a while, you may want to sterilize them again. Put them in, go ahead and put on your little backer, or if you have one of these, go ahead and screw it on. These can be sometimes hard to get through right away, these little horseshoes, because they're curved and you have to try and get it through. So sometimes putting a stud on, letting it heal for a couple of days, and then putting a horseshoe in is best. But once you get that in, you're basically done. Just wipe it down. I would wipe it down with alcohol one more time. Then what I do is I wipe it down with witch hazel. Helps kind of get rid of the inflammation and stuff, and helps heal some of the damage and stuff. Then put antibiotic ointment on, kind of work your piercing back and forth, and then one or two times a day, put some rubbing alcohol, witch hazel, and antibiotic ointment on it. If it starts hurting some more, because sometimes when it's new, it starts hurting at night when you're trying to sleep. Before bed, just put some more numbing stuff on, work it through, let it sit, then you can go to bed. And would recommend, before you really start changing your earrings frequently, if you are going to do that, if you're like me and just kind of leave the same ones over and over again, just keep them in, then, that doesn't really matter. But if you're going to be changing them frequently, I would say about maybe 3 weeks, give it 3 weeks to heal before starting to change them frequently. But generally try to always have earrings in, unless it's, you have to have them out for some short time. And if you're going to do this, make sure it's not around sometime when you have surgery, because sometimes they need you to have out any metal, take out any metal things, out, like any piercings or anything. And then I'd recommend about maybe 3 months or so before wearing any dangly earrings, because it can kind of pull on it. But yeah, so that is how I do my piercings. So yeah, thank you for watching. Yeah, thank you for watching, and go out there and grow your knowledge. Oops. Boop.